Hi, my name is Rico Robinson. I'm here to add yet another addition to my video portfolio within my resume. In this video, I will be focusing on my programming skill set, specifically with the popular automation and scripting language Python. I'll be showing you two originally created programs, one involving the automatic generation of data and the other involving the automated action of web browsing. Let me preface by saying I would like to keep this video as short as possible, so I'm going to get right down to it. But if you have any questions or want a more extensive presentation, please reach out to me for an interview. My contact information is in my resume. So my first program is called Directory Dump Test. It emulates the tree command, which is found in both Windows CMD and the Linux terminal. Let me give you a brief visual demonstration of how it works. So as you can see here, it basically gives you a logical visual of your directory. You have your folders, which are furthest aligned left, and then you have your files that are within them. As you can see here, I made like a VirtualBox subfolder that contains all my VMs as well as snapshots and other supporting configuration files. And then here's a quick look on what it looks like in Linux. As you can see, it's more or less the same thing. I've been a little color coded, which is nice. So let's go ahead and get started and go over the code one line at a time. The first line starts by importing the OS module, which gives you the functionality to be able to read and extract directories within the OS. Going down to line 7 is our function. We're actually going to skip this for now. And the reason why we're skipping this important function is because when the code is compiled by the compiler, and I think a lot of other programming languages do this besides Python, it will actually skip the function that it sees, and it won't read the function until it's actually called upon. And this function is not going to be called upon until later in the program. So we're going to skip down to line 30. And sort of in gamer mode here. We're going to skip down to line 30 here. This is where two variables are going to be initialized. The first one is going to be folder, which is going to take in the directory that I want to be scanned, read, and eventually outputted into a file. And then the second variable is going to be called title, which basically takes a string of the directory name. So this particular directory is called PC Game Mods and Fixes. This title is going to take that name and just put it into a string format and then store it in a variable called title. The first variable folder is then updated on line 32, and it's going to be updated with the actual output of that folder. So by using the method called os.list directory, it's going to take that folder, that directory that was initially stored in folder, and then it's going to output it and then store it in an updated variable, an updated version of the variable folder. This line here, line 33, is actually the call of the function. And this function called distribution is going to pass on the two variables that we previously initialized, both title and folder, and pass on to the function above. And these four lines, 30 through 33, are basically repeated with each directory. So going up back to line 7, which is our function here. We first define the function with the two arguments, title and folder. We then initialize a variable ironically called variable, and we started at 1. This variable is going to be incremented every time the function goes through. So as you can see, it's initialized in line 9, but if we skip down to line 27, it's then incremented by 1. And this is basically going to be the number that's going to coincide with the file. As you can see here in Linux, when it lists your files here in the pink text, my program is going to do the same thing, but it's going to have numbers next to each file. That way you can see immediately how many files you have in each folder. So in some cases, I have folders with over 1,000 files, and it's nice to be able to get a number on that immediately when looking at it. Let's go back to our code here. The next line will print the string version of the title, and it will also print a colon next to it. And this is basically going to be the header. So when you see the directory print out, you're actually going to first see the title of the directory, and the title will be furthest aligned to the left and have a colon next to it. That particular string is going to be stored in a variable called directory output, as seen in line 11. And then on line 12 here, we're going to have the creation of a file under the documents folder on the C drive called output.txt. Now, this file will append information as seen in this particular character A right here under quotations. Appending means it's going to add information as this function is going to be repeated several times, and each time is repeated, it's going to add information to the output.txt file. A caveat is that if this output.txt file isn't already created, it will create that file. So that's something that needs to be said here. Now, this line of code is all going to be stored in the variable D, which is going to be important immediately after, because on lines 13 and 14, we're writing to the file output.txt. At first, we're writing the output of a particular folder to output.txt, and then we're writing a line break. So every time it writes a file, it's going to add a line break as well. Excuse me, every time it writes a folder name, it's going to write a line break as well. Next, we're going to open up a CSV file called the same thing. This time it's output.csv, and we're basically going to do the same things that we did in 13 and 14. We're going to write the name of a particular folder to output.csv, and then we're going to write a line break. Next, we're going to go into a for loop, and in this for loop, we're going to write each file within that for loop. Starting here, we're going to print the string variable. In this case, right now, variable is just 1. Then we're going to put a closing parentheses, and then we're going to put a space, and then we're going to put the name of the file. And we're going to repeat this with each file in that directory. So if your directory has 5 files, it will put 1, close parentheses, space, the file name, and we'll continue to do that 5 times. And then it will move on to the next directory, repeat lines 10 through 17, and then do it over again. And as you can see here, when it prints the file to a text file, it will do the same thing for a CSV as well. Finally, the variable, named variable, is incremented by 1. So it will do this each time in a cycle until it's done outputting every file in every directory suggested in the program or written in the program. So let's go ahead and run this program real quick and give you a visualization of what it looks like. As you can see here, all my files are written out in output here. You might catch a lot of video games here. Excuse me, I'm a PC gamer, so you might catch a lot of games and game-related directories. So yeah, here's the output, but we're also going to find out a text file and a CSV has been created as well, and we'll take a look at those. So here's the CSV. Excuse me for a moment. Here's the CSV. Let's see if we can format this real quick. Okay, so here's the CSV. I've added a few format changes to make it a little easier to read, but here's output of all my files. And the reason why this is important, I mean, the program itself isn't super useful, but this shows that I have the ability to generate data, read data from a directory, and then output it to a file of your choice, whether that be a text, a CSV, XLSX, which is a formatted spreadsheet, etc., etc. And this is very important when you want to generate logs from security solutions. Albeit it could be a SIM, it could be an IDS, an IPS, a proxy program, whatever, what have you. Sometimes you want to take data and you want to generate logs, and you can do that either on a one-time basis, or in some cases you can do that on a consistent basis. Sometimes a security team would like to have automated generation of user account logins or failed logins of service accounts or any other alerts that you want to be apprised of on a daily basis or even an hourly basis. But I have the ability and the aptitude to be able to make programs that can do that, and that's the point of this program, to show you that I can do that. Let's also take a quick look at the text file here. So here's the text file that's created. And it's basically like the same thing as like the CSV, but completely non-formatted, completely raw. And sometimes you want to be able to do this. When you want to generate logs, you want to be able to make a raw file, whether it be a text or a CSV or a formatted one. Because if you want to send, let's say, logs to multiple parties, not everybody who's getting it may not be able to access a fully formatted spreadsheet like an XLSX. You want to be able to send a raw CSV or a raw text as well. So that's it for that particular program. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's not waste any time. Let's move on to my web browsing automation program. This is basically an automated bot. This is my first bot I've ever created. I'm pretty proud of it, and I want to be able to better myself when it comes to bot creation, because I believe automation is the way of the future. So anyway, One of the we're importing multiple modules here in Python, but the most important module that we're importing here is Selenium. Selenium is it's kind of like a web browsing module or package, if you will. It gives Python the ability, or it gives the coder the ability to code automated actions within a respective browser. And you can choose to automate in Chrome, Firefox, Edge, or any other leading browser that's out there. But one of the things you have to do if you want to, you got to choose a browser that you want to automate in, and then you have to get the respective driver. In this case, we have something called Chrome driver, which is a necessity. It's basically acts as communication between your Python program and Chrome itself. And here you have to tell it exactly where Chrome driver is located. So once you download Chrome driver on your computer, you got to tell it, okay, it's on drive D, it's in my downloads folder, and this line of code, line 11, specifies that. From here, we're going to actually pass on the options function and pass it on to a variable called options. And we're going to configure certain options before we actually run our script here. This whole script is meant to download a file, in particular from wireshark.org. But before we do that, we have to change a few options. Now, by default, when you download a file from Chrome, if you first install Chrome, like a fresh installation, try to download a file, it will prompt you to say, if you try to download a file, it will prompt you to say, okay, are you sure you want to download this file? This file could be malicious. Something in so many words. Basically, it asks, are you sure you want to download that file? These list of options that you see here of lines of code will actually go into the Chrome settings. Let me give you an example here. It will actually go into settings to Chrome, go under downloads, and configure these options. This is basically what you're seeing here. Let's see. It's setting the download prompt for download to false. So basically, when you try to download a file from Chrome, sometimes it will give you an additional prompt if you want to download a file. And then I'm trying to, at this line of code, in line 16, I'm trying to tell Python to configure that option to false. And I'm also doing things like disabling safe browsing and so on and so forth. And I'm also disabling, in line 22, I'm disabling download protection. Now, with the recent update of Chrome, unfortunately, it actually disables, or actually prevents Selenium from engaging some of these options. So what you'll see here when I run the program in a few seconds, it will actually download the file, or attempt to, but it won't completely get past the safeguards, which I was able to get past in previous versions of Chrome. But let me go ahead and run the program, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. So it's going to open up an instance of Chrome. It's going to go directly to Wireshark by sending out a GET request to wireshark.org. And then it's going to go and find the download link by finding the metadata of the link text of the Windows installer, and then it's going to click on that button, that HTML button, and then it's going to initiate the download of the file. So basically, what just happened is the program goes directly down to this link right here, Windows installer 64-bit, and clicks on it. Unfortunately, this prompt right here is something that, as it stands currently, as I'm making this video, I can't bypass this. There's some type of change in Chrome, and I guess Chrome driver is going to have to be updated before I can actually disable this particular prompt and bypass it. But basically, as you can see here, more or less the goal is achieved. I was able to visit the website wireshark.org automatically and click on the respective link and attempt to download the Wireshark installer. And that's it. If you have any questions, please look at my resume and give me a call, and let's try to set up an interview. I would love to bring my skills to the table. I feel like programming skills is very vital to an analyst role, because a lot of things in any aspect of IT, not just security, comes down to programming more or less. So again, thank you for watching this video, and please reach out to me. I would love to contribute my skills to your team. Thank you. Have a nice day.